She walked into the gymnasium carrying a cake. Pink frosting, neat cursive lettering. Congratulations from your real mom. She had not called him once in 19 years. I was 41 years old that morning. I was sitting in a plastic chair in the third row, wearing a navy dress I had bought for the first time in 3 years. My son, the boy I had brought home from the hospital in a car seat borrowed from a coworker, the boy I had wrapped in a yellow cotton blanket and promised I would figure this out, was about to give the valedictorian address to 400 people. And my sister had flown in from Chicago with a cake. Congratulations from your real mom. 19 years. 19 birthday cakes I baked myself because bakery cakes cost $40, and $40 was a week of groceries. 19 first days of school. 19 Christmases, including the ones where I wrapped his gifts in newspapers because I could not afford wrapping paper. He did not notice. He was 3. He thought the comics page was part of the gift. My sister had flown in from Chicago with a cake. Here is what happened at that graduation ceremony. It made my mother cry. It made my sister's boyfriend walk out. It made 200 strangers stand up for a woman they had never met. But before I tell you what Noah said at that podium, I need to take you back 19 years to the night my mother called at 2 in the morning. Because that phone call is where this story begins. And the cake is where it ends. I grew up in Cedar Falls, Ohio. Population, 11,000. The kind of town where your neighbor knows your report card before you do. Where the pharmacist asks about your grandmother's hip before ringing up your prescription. Where everything is everyone's business except the things that matter most, and those things you bury. My sister Brianna is 6 years younger than me. She was the baby, the pretty one, the one who walked into a room and made people smile just by existing. I was the other one, the one who set the table, washed the dishes, drove Brianna to dance class every Tuesday and Thursday because our mother said it was good practice for when you have your own kids someday. I had just turned 22 that spring. I had finished my bachelor's in education at Ohio State. I had been accepted into a master's program, full scholarship, special education track. A letter I had read so many times the paper was soft at the folds. I had a plan, a timeline, a studio apartment with a window that faced a parking lot, which I thought was beautiful because it was mine. Brianna was 16. She was a sophomore. She had a boyfriend who drove a Mustang and worked at the movie theater and had already stopped returning her calls by March. The phone rang at 2 in the morning. I drove 40 minutes home in the dark. My mother Donna was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea she wasn't drinking. My father Frank stood by the refrigerator, arms crossed, staring at a spot on the floor the way he always did when something important was happening, and he had decided it wasn't his problem. Donna didn't look up when I sat down. She pushed a piece of paper across the table, an ultrasound printout. 4 months along, Brianna had known for 4 months and told no one. Donna's first words were not about Brianna, not about the baby, not about the Mustang boy who had already disappeared. Her first words were, "The neighbors cannot know." I remember the clock on the wall. 11 minutes past 2. The tea is getting cold. Frank cleared his throat and said nothing. Donna went to the hall closet, came back with something small and yellow, folded into a square, cotton faded at the edges. A baby blanket. "This was yours," she said, placing it on the table between us. "When you were born." I picked it up. Soft, thin, from 22 years of storage. It smelled like cedar, and something I couldn't name. I held it in both hands and said nothing. Donna sat back down and looked at me for the first time since I arrived. "You have to help," she said. "You are her sister." The kitchen clock ticked. The tea went cold. Frank stared at the floor. I didn't say yes that night. But in my family, silence was always the same as agreement. 2 weeks later, I called my mother and told her I would do it. I withdrew from my master's program the next morning. The scholarship office sent a confirmation letter that I never opened. I put it in the recycling bin on the way back to my apartment and didn't look back. Noah was born on July 14th at 3:17 in the afternoon. 6 pounds, 9 ounces, a full head of dark hair, a scream that could strip paint. I was in the delivery room. Brianna was there. Of course she was the one in labor. Donna stood by the door with her arms crossed, watching the clock. Frank waited in the hallway, probably staring at a spot on the floor. When Noah arrived, the nurse cleaned him and wrapped him and held him out. "Who wants to hold him first?" 3 people in that room. Brianna turned her head toward the wall. Donna did not move. The nurse looked at me. I took him. 6 pounds, 9 ounces. His eyes were closed. His fist curled around my index finger, and he stopped crying just like that, like he had been waiting for the right person to hold him. 3 days later, I carried Noah into my one-bedroom apartment on East Willow Street. I had a crib borrowed from a coworker, a box of diapers from the dollar store, and the yellow blanket from my mother's closet. I wrapped him in it that first night. The same blanket that had wrapped me 22 years earlier. It barely covered him, but it was soft and it was warm and it was ours. Example 1. Noah had colic. He cried for 4 hours every night, 8 to midnight without fail. I walked circles around my apartment holding him against my chest, humming songs I half remembered from childhood, watching the clock. One night, when he had been crying for 3 straight hours and I had not slept more than 4 consecutive hours in 6 weeks, I called my mother. It was 11 at night. I was standing in the kitchen in sweatpants and a formula-stained shirt, and I was crying too. "Mom, I need help, just for one night. Please." Donna's voice was steady. "You chose this, Lena. You are an adult. Figure it out." She hung up. I stood in the kitchen for a long time with the phone in my hand. Noah was still crying. The clock said 11:43. I put the phone down, picked Noah up, and started walking circles again. Example 2. Brianna moved to Boston for college in August. Small private school. Tuition paid by a combination of scholarships and our parents' savings, the same savings. Donna said could not cover Noah's pediatrician bills when I asked. Brianna graduated summa cum laude from Emerson 4 years later. Donna drove to Boston for the ceremony. Frank went too. They had the graduation photo framed and hung in the living room, professionally matted. 18 by 24. Noah's first day of kindergarten photo was on my refrigerator, held up by a magnet shaped like a ladybug. It was not in their house at all. When Noah was 6, Brianna called for the first time since the day she signed her relinquishment forms by fax from a sorority house during rush week. I was making spaghetti. Noah was at the table drawing a picture of a dinosaur eating a spaceship. Brianna's voice had changed deeper, more polished, like she'd been practicing being an adult. She did not ask about Noah, not how he was doing in school, not what he liked to eat, not whether he had outgrown the colic years ago. She asked about a car. A 2003 Toyota Camry she had left in our parents' garage 6 years earlier. She needed to sell it for her apartment deposit. "Thanks, bye." 42 seconds. I timed it afterward because I could not believe that was the whole conversation. That evening, Donna called. "Your sister is graduating next spring, top of her class. Do not make things difficult for her." "I'm making spaghetti," I said. Example 3. Noah was 8 years old when he asked me a question while I was washing dishes. "Aunt Lena, how come I don't have a mom and dad like the other kids?" My hands stopped moving. The water kept running. A plate slipped and clinked against the bottom of the sink. He was sitting at the kitchen table behind me, homework spread out, pencil in hand. Those dark, serious eyes are already too perceptive for an 8-year-old. I turned off the water, dried my hands, sat down across from him. "Dylan, I love you more than anything in this world. Your birth mom loves you too, in her own way. But I'm the one who's here. I'm the one who's always going to be here." He studied my face for a long moment. "I know," he said. "I just wanted to call you Mom instead of Aunt Lena. Is that okay?" I had not cried in years. Not when Donna refused to help. Not when Brianna called about a car instead of her son. Not when Christmas came and went without a card from anyone. But when an 8-year-old boy asked permission to call me Mom, I broke. He got up from his chair, walked around the table, and hugged me. Small arms, tight grip. He smelled like pencil shavings and grape juice. "It's okay, Mom." First time. That night, after Noah went to bed, I opened the fireproof safe under my bed, took out the legal guardianship papers, read them in the light of my bedside lamp, my name on every line. Lena Marie Caldwell, legal guardian. Brianna Caldwell, voluntary relinquishment, notarized, stamped, filed with Franklin County. Underneath the papers, folded in the corner of the safe, was the yellow blanket, frayed at the edges, missing a quarter of its original stitching. It smelled like baby shampoo in years. I was still holding it when I heard a small knock on my door. Noah stood there in his dinosaur pajamas. "Mom, I can't sleep." "Me neither," I said. He climbed into my bed, saw the blanket in my hands, and reached for it. "That's my baby blanket." "It was mine first," I said, "before it was yours." He took it from me, studied the frayed edges. Then he folded it carefully, too carefully for an 8-year-old and placed it back in the safe. "We should keep it safe," he said. "It's important." He knew more than he was saying. He always did. 2 months before graduation, Noah showed me the group chat. He came home from school on a Wednesday and set his phone on the kitchen counter. Screen up. "Mom, you need to see this." It was a family group text. Donna, Frank, Brianna, Aunt Patrice, Uncle Dale. Someone had added Noah to the thread by accident, probably Donna, who could barely operate her phone on a good day. The messages went back 2 years. I scrolled through them sitting at the kitchen table, while Noah stood by the window, arms crossed, watching me. Donna, 14 months ago. "When Brianna's ready, she will take Noah back. Lena is just keeping him for now." Brianna, same thread, 3 days later. "Give me a couple more years. I'm getting my life together." Frank, thumbs up emoji. Aunt Patrice. "Poor Brianna. She's been through so much." Uncle Dale. "Lena should be grateful she got to have a kid at all." I read every message twice. My hands were steady because they had to be. The kitchen was quiet except for the refrigerator humming. 2 years. For 2 years, my family had been discussing the return of my son like he was a borrowed lawnmower, like I was storing him temporarily until Brianna was ready to pick him up. I set the phone down and looked at Noah. "Why didn't you show me this sooner?" "Because I didn't want you to lose them," he said. "Even though they don't deserve you." I am 17 years old, standing in my kitchen, protecting me from my own family. I did not call Donna. I did not call Brianna. I did not scream or cry or throw anything. I went to the bedroom, opened the fireproof safe, and checked every document. Guardianship papers valid. Voluntary relinquishment signed and notarized. School enrollment records my name on every emergency contact line for 19 years. Medical records my signature on every consent form since his first vaccination. Then I closed the safe and went back to making dinner. 6 weeks before graduation, the school made it official. Noah Caldwell, valedictorian, class of 2026, highest GPA in a class of 312 students. His college counselor had called me in for a meeting in October. "His essay is one of the strongest I've read in 20 years, she said. She slid a printed copy across the desk. The title was centered at the top in 12-point Times New Roman. "The Woman Who Chose Me." I read it in the school parking lot because I could not read it in front of another human being. I sat in my Honda with the engine off and the windows up and read every word. He wrote about the night I brought him home from the hospital, about the yellow blanket, about learning to ride a bike in the parking lot of our apartment complex because we didn't have a driveway, about Christmas mornings with newspaper wrapping paper, about the night he asked to call me Mom and I cried. He wrote, "Biology is an accident. Love is a decision. My mother made that decision every single day for 19 years, and she never once asked for credit." I sat in that car for 20 minutes before I could drive. 6 weeks before graduation, Rita called. No greeting, no small talk. "Brianna will be at the ceremony. She's bringing someone. His name is Marcus Whitfield. He's in real estate. Very successful. Very traditional. He wants a family, Lena. A real family." I leaned against the kitchen counter and listened. She told him the situation was complicated, that the family circumstances forced her to make a difficult choice. "What choice was that?" I said. "You know what I mean. Harrison doesn't know she signed the papers by fax during rush week, does he?" Silence. "Do not ruin this for her." "She's bringing a cake," Donna added. "Something special to celebrate." After I hung up, I sat on the porch for 30 minutes. Fireflies in the yard, lawnmowers running somewhere down the block. The street lights come on one by one. Noah came out with 2 glasses of lemonade, sat down next to me. "She's coming," I said. "I know. With someone," I figured. We drank in silence for a while. "Are you okay with that?" He set his glass down on the porch railing, looked at me with those dark, steady eyes. "Mom, I have been okay for a long time. I was okay when I was 8 and asked to call you Mom. I was okay when I was 13 and you told me the truth. I was okay when I read the group chat." He stood up, squeezed my shoulder. "She can bring whoever she wants. She can bring a cake and a banner and a marching band. It won't change anything." He went inside. I stayed on the porch until the sun went down. Graduation morning. I woke up at 5:30 and couldn't go back to sleep. Made coffee. Sat at the kitchen table listening to the house breathe. Noah's cap and gown were hanging on the back of the dining room chair. Navy blue, gold tassel. I had pressed them 3 days ago with a damp cloth, between the polyester and the iron plate, the way my mother had taught me to iron when I was 10. Noah came downstairs at 7, showered, shaved, dressed in a white button-down and dark slacks. "How do you feel?" I asked. "Hungry." I made eggs, toast, and orange juice. We ate in comfortable silence. The morning light came through the kitchen window and hit the salt shaker just right, throwing a small rainbow across the table. "Can I see the speech?" I asked one more time. "You'll hear it," he said, from the third row. After breakfast, he went to his room to finish getting ready. I washed the dishes, dried them, and put them away. Then I went to get dressed. When I came back downstairs, Noah was standing in the hallway, adjusting his cap in the mirror. I noticed something in his hand. Small, yellow, folded. The blanket. He was tucking it into the inside pocket of his vest. He saw me watching, held my gaze in the mirror. "For good luck," he said. Then he smiled. I did not ask anything else. I picked up my car keys. The gymnasium at Willow Creek High School holds 400 people. That day, every seat was taken. I was walking to my row when I saw her, Donna, moving down the center aisle with both hands wrapped around a flat white box. Pink frosting. Neat cursive lettering visible even from 15 feet away. "Congratulations from your real mom." I sat down. Joe reached over and took my hand. I did not look at the cake again. Before the ceremony started, Brianna made her move. She walked straight to the staging area where the graduates were lining up. Security didn't stop her because she smiled at the volunteer parent at the door and said, "I'm Noah's mother." And technically, biologically, she was not lying. I watched from my seat as she found Noah in the line. She hugged him a full theatrical embrace, both arms, head tilted for maximum visibility. Noah stood rigid. His arms stayed at his sides. Then Brianna turned. She walked toward me, heels clicking, stopped at the end of my row and leaned close enough for the people behind us to hear. "Lena, thank you so much for taking care of my son all these years." She placed her hand on my shoulder. "You've been an incredible babysitter." A pause. Then, "But I'm here now. I'll take it from here." Babysitter. 19 years. 4,000 school lunches. 300 parent-teacher conferences. 11,000 bedtime stories. 16 years of homework help. 19 birthday cakes I baked myself because bakery cakes cost $40. And that was a week of groceries. Babysitter. I did not respond. Not because I couldn't think of what to say. I had 19 years of things to say. I didn't respond because I saw Noah watching us from the staging area. He was standing very still. His jaw was tight. His eyes were locked on mine. And in those eyes I read a message as clearly as if he had spoken it aloud. "Wait for me." So I waited. The ceremony began at 10 o'clock sharp. Principal Hicks welcomed the families. The school orchestra played something classical that nobody recognized. The superintendent gave a speech about futures and possibilities and the importance of community, which lasted 12 minutes and contained no fewer than 6 sports metaphors. Then the graduates began crossing the stage. One by one. Name called. Diploma received. Handshake. Smile. Photograph. 312 graduates in alphabetical order. Brianna had moved to the second row directly in front of me. She had her phone out, recording. Every time a student crossed the stage, she lowered it. She kept leaning toward Marcus and whispering something. He nodded. He looked comfortable. He looked like a man who believed every word his girlfriend had told him about her past. Donna sat at the end of the row, with the cake on her lap, guarding it like it contained state secrets. Frank sat beside her, hands on his knees, staring straight ahead. I sat with my hands folded. Jo was next to me, her phone in her purse, her attention on the stage. She was the only person in that gymnasium who knew the full story, the group chat, the facts, the 19 years. Caldwell, Noah. I heard his name and everything else disappeared. The gymnasium, the crowd, the cake, Brianna's emerald dress, Marcus's silver watch, all of it fell away. Noah walked across the stage, tall, steady, cap perfectly straight. He shook the superintendent's hand, received his diploma, and looked down at me in the third row. He winked. Then he walked to the podium. He adjusted the microphone, cleared his throat, unfolded a piece of paper. "Good morning," he said. His voice was clear, calm, projected the way I had taught him when he was 12 doing his first book report presentation. He started with the expected material: freshman year disorientation, the cafeteria mystery meat. That one substitute teacher who showed movies for 6 weeks straight. The crowd laughed. Brianna laughed loudest, her hand on Marcus's arm. He talked about what Cedar Falls had taught him, about the teachers who stayed late, about the janitor who knew every student's name, about the librarian who kept a secret stash of granola bars for kids who came to school hungry. He was good, natural, warm without being sentimental. The audience was with him. Then he paused. He looked down at the paper in his hands, studied it for 3 seconds. 5. Then he folded it carefully, deliberately, the way he had folded the yellow blanket when he was 8. He placed it on the podium. And he began speaking without notes. The gymnasium got quiet, the particular kind of quiet that happens when 400 people simultaneously realize something unexpected is coming. Brianna was still smiling. She leaned forward slightly. Her phone was recording. She thought he was about to talk about her. I could see it in the way she straightened her posture, the way she squeezed Marcus's hand. She was preparing for her moment. She had no idea what was coming. The person I want to thank most today, Noah said, is not a teacher, not a coach, not a friend. He paused. It's a woman who was 22 years old when she was handed a newborn baby and told, "This is your responsibility now." The gymnasium was silent. She had never changed a diaper. She had never heated a bottle. She had just been accepted into a master's program with a full scholarship, and she gave it up. Somewhere in the back of the gymnasium, someone sniffed. She moved into a one-bedroom apartment and figured it out. 4 hours of sleep a night for the first year. Teaching assistant salary, dollar store diapers. She wrapped my Christmas presents in the newspaper because she couldn't afford wrapping paper. Joe squeezed my hand so hard I lost feeling in my fingers. She went back to school when I was 5. Night classes, 4 years. She graduated with a master's degree in special education, and nobody from her family came to her ceremony. One friend sat in the 3rd row and cheered loud enough for 10 people. Brianna was no longer smiling. Her phone had dropped to her lap. She was looking at Noah with an expression I had never seen on her face before. Confusion, then recognition, then something that looked almost like fear. Noah looked directly at me. 3rd row, left side. "She is not the woman who gave birth to me," he said, "but she is the woman who chose me, every single day, for 19 years, without asking for anything in return, without complaining, without quitting." His voice did not crack. His hands did not shake. "Her name is Lena Caldwell." He paused. "She is my mother." The gymnasium erupted. 200 people clapped, some standing, a few wiping their eyes. Joe was crying openly. The orchestra teacher in the corner was dabbing her face with a program sheet. Principal Hicks, standing by the stage steps, pressed her hand over her heart. I could not move. I sat in my plastic chair with tears running down my face and my hands folded in my lap, exactly where they had been for the past 45 minutes, except now they were shaking. Brianna had stopped clapping. Her phone was in her lap, still recording the ceiling. Donna sat at the end of her row. The cake was still in her lap. "Congratulations from your real mom." The pink lettering facing outward, visible to everyone around her. Except now, those words meant something entirely different. Because 400 people had just heard Noah Caldwell name his real mom. And it was not the woman on the cake. Let me tell you about the years before. Not the dramatic years, the quiet ones, because the quiet years are the ones that actually built something. When Noah was 5, I went back to school. Night classes, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Noah stayed with a neighbor named Patty who had 6 grandchildren and the patience of a geological formation. Noah loved her. He used to fall asleep on her couch watching the Weather Channel and wake up asking her to explain frontal systems. I drove to class at 6:15, sat in rooms full of people 10 years younger than me, took notes in the margins because I couldn't afford to buy separate notebooks, and drove home at 9:30 to check on him. 4 years, 106 credit hours, a master's degree in special education. My graduation ceremony was a Thursday evening in May. 32 students in my cohort, most of them 24 years old, most of them receiving a diploma that their parents had paid for. Joe sat in the 3rd row and cheered loud enough for 10 people. Nobody from the Caldwell family attended. I didn't invite them. I already knew what they would say. The next week, Willow Creek High School offered me the special education coordinator position I'd been working toward. $43,000 a year. Benefits included. My own office, a small one, with a window that faced the parking lot. I thought of my studio apartment at 22, the window that faced the parking lot, which I thought was beautiful because it was mine. Some things come back around. Noah was 13 when I told him the full truth. We were sitting on the porch on a Sunday afternoon. He had been asking questions for months, not direct ones, but circling questions. Why did Grandma Donna always introduce him as Brianna's son? Why was there no record of his birth in the family photo albums? Why had he never met Tyler, the boy in the Mustang? So I told him. I told him about the phone call at 2 in the morning, about the ultrasound printout on the kitchen table, about the yellow blanket, about the scholarship letter I had withdrawn from and never opened, about Vanessa signing the relinquishment forms by fax from a sorority house during rush week while I was filing guardianship papers in a small fireproof safe under my bed. I told him everything. He sat very still for a long time. The porch was quiet, crickets in the yard, the last light of afternoon going orange on the rooftops. Then he said, "So you didn't have to keep me?" "No," I said. "But you did." "Yes." He was quiet again, not upset, processing. The way he always processed things carefully, from the inside out. Why? I had thought about how to answer that question for 13 years. "Because someone put you in my arms," I said, "and you stopped crying. And I thought this is where you belong." He nodded. I looked out at the street. Then he reached over and took my hand without looking at me, the way he had when he was 15 at that Thanksgiving dinner table, when Donna introduced him to the cousins as Vanessa's son. "Okay," he said. "That was it." "Okay." He never asked again. When Noah was 15, I brought him to my parents' house for Thanksgiving for the first time in years. I don't know why I agreed to go. Maybe I thought things had changed. Maybe I wanted Noah to have the big table holiday experience at least once. Maybe I was tired of pretending the Caldwell family didn't exist. The table was set for 14. Turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole. Rita met us at the door. She hugged Noah. Brief, performative. Then she walked him into the dining room and introduced him to a cousin he had never met. "This is Vanessa's son, Dylan. Not Lena's son, not our grandson, not even Noah. Vanessa's son." Noah's hand found mine under the table. He squeezed. 15 years old, and he understood the dynamic better than anyone in that room. After dessert, Donna cornered me in the kitchen. "It was nice of you to bring him," she said, loading the dishwasher. "Brianna would be glad to know he's doing well." "Then maybe Brianna should ask him herself," I said. Donna gave me the look. The one that said, "You are being difficult again." We drove home in silence. Noah broke it first. "I don't need to go back there, Mom." I didn't argue. In Noah's junior year, his college counselor stopped me in the hallway. "Gifted," she said. "Exceptional. Have you considered early college admission?" I had considered nothing except making sure he ate dinner every night and had clean clothes for school. Everything else, the grades, the ambition, the quiet discipline, that was all Noah. He had AP classes stacked 3 deep. Debate team captain. Volunteer tutor at the community center every Saturday morning. His teachers said things like, "He has a way of making the people around him better." I knew that. I had known it since he was 8 and folded the yellow blanket with the careful deliberateness of someone twice his age and placed it back in the safe and said, "We should keep it safe. It's important." 3 weeks before graduation, Noah came into the kitchen holding his phone. She messaged me. He turned the screen toward me. Instagram direct message. Professional headshot. 4,000 followers. "Hey, handsome. I know this is out of the blue, but I'm your bio mom. I've thought about you every single day. I would love to meet you. I'm coming to town soon." I read it twice, set down my red pen. I looked at Noah. He was watching me the way he always did when something important was happening. Quietly, carefully, measuring my reaction before forming his own. "What do you want to do?" I asked. "What should I do?" "That's your decision, Dylan, not mine." He sat down. Thought about it for 2 full minutes. Then he typed a reply. "Hi, thank you for reaching out. I appreciate you thinking of me. No emojis. No, I'd love to meet you. Just a surface-level acknowledgement that a message had been received." Brianna replied within 90 seconds. "Can't wait to see you at graduation. I'm bringing someone special I want you to meet." Noah read it. Then he locked his phone and put it face down on the table. I thought about Brianna at 16, signing papers by fax from a sorority house. I thought about Brianna at 35, typing, "I've thought about you every single day" with 3 heart emojis. Same person, same avoidance, different font. She has school. "I've thought about you every single day." 2 sentences. 19 years apart. The first one was at least honest. Jo helped me pick out the navy dress the week before graduation. She said I looked like I was going to a state dinner. Better, I said. Noah ironed his own shirt the morning of. He had been ironing his own shirt since he was 14. I taught him. He was better at it than I was. That morning in the kitchen, the light came through the window and hit the salt shaker just right, throwing a small rainbow across the table. Noah was eating eggs. I was drinking coffee. Neither of us said much. There was nothing left to say. Everything had already been said in 11,000 bedtime stories, in 4,000 school lunches, in 16 years of homework at the kitchen table, in the fireproof safe under my bed that held the paperwork of a life we had built together. Everything had already been said. The speech was just going to say it out loud, in a room full of witnesses. The year Noah turned 16, he got a part-time job at the Cedar Falls Public Library shelving books on Saturday afternoons. He came home the first week and told me the Dewey Decimal System was basically a conspiracy. How so? They put philosophy next to religion, like they knew someone would need them both at the same time. I told him that was exactly why librarians existed. He thought about that for a moment. Is that why you became a teacher? I became a teacher because I was 22 and had no idea what I was doing, and someone handed me a baby, and the only thing I was good at was explaining things. He laughed. The quiet laugh he had inherited from no one in the Caldwell family because it was entirely his own. You're good at more than explaining things. Name one. Ironing. You're better at ironing. Because you taught me. That was the whole argument. He won. There was a year Noah was 17. Junior year, the year he made debate captain and started the volunteer tutoring program when I thought about calling Donna. Not because I wanted to, but because I had this idea, this small and probably foolish idea, that she might want to know who her grandson was becoming. Not Vanessa's son, not a borrowed lawnmower, but Noah the boy, who quoted the Dewey Decimal System as a conspiracy, who folded blankets too carefully for his age, who stood in my kitchen, protecting me from my own family at 17, and asked for nothing in return. I picked up the phone twice, put it down both times. The third time, I opened the fireproof safe instead. Read the guardianship papers again. My name on every line. His name. Notarized. Stamped. Filed. Closed the safe. Made dinner. Some things you hold on to not because you're angry, but because you've learned the difference between a door and a wall. My mother lived behind a wall. I had spent years knocking on it, believing it was a door. That year, I stopped knocking. The night before graduation, no one knocked on my bedroom door. I was sitting up in bed with a book I hadn't been reading. He leaned against the doorframe in his pajamas, arms crossed, looking at me the way he did when he had something important to say and hadn't quite gotten it into words yet. Mom. Yeah. He was quiet for a moment. The house was quiet. Outside, someone's sprinkler was clicking. Whatever happens tomorrow, he said, I want you to know that none of it changes what I know. What do you know? He smiled. The quiet, contained smile that belonged only to him. That you're my mom. That you have been since the beginning. That a cake with pink frosting doesn't change that. That a woman in an emerald dress flying in from Chicago doesn't change that. He pushed off the doorframe. Get some sleep. You too. He walked back down the hall. His door closed. The house settled. I turned off my lamp and lay in the dark for a long time. Somewhere in the room, in the safe under the bed, was a yellow blanket. Frayed at the edges, missing a quarter of its stitching, smelling like cedar and something I could no longer name. I didn't take it out. I didn't need to. I already knew what it meant. The ceremony ended. Families spilled out onto the grass. Graduates hugged classmates. Cameras clicked. The afternoon sun was warm and the air smelled like fresh-cut lawn and cheap cologne. I was standing near the oak tree by the parking lot when Brianna found me. She came fast, heels sinking into grass. Mascara is already smudging at the corners. Marcus trailed behind her, hands in his pockets, mouth pressed into a thin line. What was that? Brianna's voice was sharp loud enough for the cluster of parents nearby to turn around. What did you tell him to say? I didn't tell him anything. You coached him. You turned my own son against me. Noah appeared behind her, still in his cap and gown, diploma in one hand. His voice was even quiet. The voice of someone who had rehearsed this moment in his head for years. Nobody coached me. Brianna spun toward him. Baby, I'm your mother. I gave birth to you. I carried you for 9 months. And then you signed a piece of paper, Noah said, and faxed it from a sorority house. During rush week, he added, Brianna's mouth opened, closed. It opened again. Grandma told me once that you had to go because you had school, Noah continued. And you did go to school. For 19 years. You went to school and to a career and to 2 marriages and to Chicago. He paused. And that's fine. But you don't get to walk into my graduation with a cake that says real mom and pretend those 19 years didn't happen. He looked at Donna, standing 10 feet away with the cake still in her hands. And Grandma. His voice was patient, the way you speak to someone who cannot hear you no matter how clearly you talk. You said today was Brianna's chance. But this is my graduation, not her audition. Marcus stepped forward. He had been silent for the entire exchange, watching with the careful attention of a man who builds deals for a living and knows when the numbers don't add up. Brianna, he said. His voice was low, controlled. You told me the family situation was complicated. You told me you were forced to give him up. That's the word you used, forced. Asterisk. Asterisk. Brianna wiped her eyes. Harrison, it was complicated. Did you sign away your parental rights voluntarily? I was 16. Did you sign voluntarily? The people around us had stopped pretending not to listen. A parent with a camera lowered it. 2 graduates nearby turned to watch. Brianna looked at Donna for rescue. Donna stepped forward, reaching for Marcus's arm. You don't understand our family. Marcus moved his arm away. He looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time. You raised him from birth? Yes, I said. Alone? Yes. He turned back to Brianna. His jaw was set. His eyes had changed. The warmth was gone, replaced by something cold and precise. He did not say another word to her. He straightened his jacket, adjusted his watch, walked across the grass to the parking lot. I heard his car start a clean, expensive sound and watched it pull out of the lot, past the school sign, past the gymnasium, and down the road toward the highway. Brianna stood in the middle of the lawn in her emerald dress with her auburn hair catching the sunlight, and she watched the only man who had ever made her want to be a mother drive away. Because he had just learned that she never was one. The cake sat on the grass where Donna had set it down. Nobody had touched it. Nobody ever would. In the silence that followed Marcus's departure, something shifted in Donna's face. She was looking at Noah, not at Brianna, not at me. At Noah standing there in his cap and gown, diploma in hand, yellow tassel brushing his shoulder. Her grandson, the baby she had handed away with a blanket and an ultimatum 19 years ago. Her eyes were wet. Her lower lip trembled for one single moment, maybe 3 seconds, maybe 5. I saw something in my mother's face that I had never seen before. Regret. Actual, unfiltered regret. She opened her mouth and I thought, this is it. This is the moment she apologizes. This is the moment she says she was wrong. This is the moment 19 years of silence breaks open and something real comes through. Lena, she said. I waited. If you hadn't poisoned him against his own mother, none of this would have happened. And just like that, the moment was gone. The wet eyes dried. The trembling lip set itself into a firm line. The regret, if it was ever regret, collapsed back into the fortress of righteousness that Donna had been living inside since before I was born. Frank stood behind her, quiet as ever, staring at the grass. He had not said one word since arriving. Noah looked at Donna. His expression was patient. Not angry, not contemptuous, patient the way you look at someone who cannot hear you no matter how clearly you speak. Grandma, he said, no one poisoned me. I'm 19 years old. I have eyes, I have ears, and I have 19 years of memories. He paused. Do you know how many of those memories include you? Donna said nothing. 7 Thanksgivings, 3 Christmases, 1 birthday card. He paused again. Do you know how many include Mom? He looked at me. All of them. Every single one. She's in every memory I have because she was there. Donna had no answer for that. There was no answer for that. Noah turned to Brianna. She was standing 3 feet away, mascara streaked, arms wrapped around herself. Her emerald dress caught the wind. I'm not trying to hurt you, he said. I need you to hear that. I'm not angry. I'm not punishing you. He took a step closer. But if you want to be in my life, you can be. I would like that. You just have to start from now, not from a cake. Not from an Instagram post that says my son, my pride when you don't know my GPA, my best friend's name, or what I'm allergic to. Brianna blinked. What are you allergic to? Free nuts, Noah said. Since I was 4, Mom figured it out when I broke out in hives at a birthday party. She drove me to the ER doing 60 in a 35 zone. She sat in the waiting room for 4 hours holding a juice box and praying. He reached into his vest pocket, pulled out something small and yellow and faded. The blanket? Silence. The parents nearby had gone still. Even the tuba player in the corner had stopped packing up his instrument. Noah unfolded the blanket, held it up for a moment, thin as tissue, frayed at every edge, the stitching worn away at 3 corners. 19 years in a fireproof safe. 22 years before that in my mother's closet. He walked to me. He took my hand. He placed it in my palm. This is yours, Mom. His voice was even, clear, carrying to every person within 30 feet. It was always yours. I held that blanket, thin as tissue, soft as memory, frayed at every edge. It smelled like cedar and baby shampoo and 18 years of being someone's whole world. I could not speak. There was nothing left to say. My son had said it all. Jo put her arm around my shoulders. The parents nearby were silent. The afternoon sun was still warm. Somewhere on the other side of the gym, a graduate was taking a photo with his family, laughing, not knowing that 40 feet away the quietest thing in the world had just happened. The next few minutes happened in fragments. Brianna, standing alone on the grass, arms still crossed, looking at the ground, her emerald dress caught the wind. Nobody is approaching her. Nobody speaks to her. Donna pulled Frank toward the parking lot without a word, Frank following the way he always followed, neither of them looking back. The cake is sitting on the grass near the oak tree. White box, pink frosting. Congratulations from your real mom. The lettering facing the sky now, visible to no one except the sparrows. And Noah standing next to me under the oak tree, one arm around my shoulders, diploma in his other hand, yellow tassel catching the afternoon light. Not looking at the cake, not looking at Brianna, not looking at Donna's retreating figure across the parking lot. Looking at me. Ready? He said. Yeah, I said. Jo made reservations. Where? That Italian place you've been saying we should try for 3 years. I said that once. You said it 4 times. I counted. I looked at him. This boy I had brought home in a borrowed car seat. This boy who had walked into my kitchen at 17 to protect me from my own family. This boy who had folded a blanket at 8 with the deliberateness of someone who understood that some things need to be kept safe. This man, I squeezed the yellow blanket once, then I folded it carefully the way he had taught me. Actually, the way an 8-year-old had shown his 29-year-old mother that some things deserved to be handled gently, and I put it in my purse. Ready, I said. We walked across the grass, past the gymnasium, past the oak tree, past the white box with the pink frosting that nobody had touched. I did not look back. I had stopped looking back around year 4. If you are still here, you already know this is not a graduation story. It is a story about what it costs to choose someone. Every day, without witnesses, without applause, without anyone telling you that you are doing it right. I gave up a scholarship. I gave up a plan. I gave up the studio apartment with the window that faced the parking lot, which I thought was beautiful because it was mine. I got something else. I got a boy who asked permission to call me mom at 8 years old, and then spent the next 11 years making sure the whole world knew it. I got a man who carried a yellow blanket in his vest pocket on the biggest day of his life, not for sentiment, but for something he could hold, while he said the truest thing he knew. I got 19 years of ordinary mornings that I would not trade for any of the extraordinary ones I missed. The blanket is back in the fireproof safe now. It is frayed at all 4 corners. The stitching is almost entirely gone. It smells like cedar and baby shampoo and something I can no longer name. But it is soft, and it is warm, and it is ours. It was always ours. If you have ever been the person everyone calls after everything falls apart, type last call in the comments. Or just tell me, would you have answered the phone that night? I still think about that sometimes. The 40-minute drive in the dark, the ultrasound printout on the kitchen table, the choice that wasn't really a choice at all. I would answer it again, every time. And maybe that's the part people misunderstand most about stories like this. They think the pain comes from sacrifice, from the missed opportunities, the night classes, the exhaustion, the years spent building a life around someone else's survival. But that's not the deepest wound. The deepest wound is realizing that the people who should have seen your love clearly only noticed it once somebody else said it out loud. Because Noah had been calling me mom for 11 years. He called me mom when he had the flu at 3 in the morning. When he got his driver's license, when he failed his first chemistry test and sat at the kitchen table, convinced his future was over. When he got accepted into college, when he needed someone to show up, the graduation speech didn't create the truth. It just forced other people to hear it. And maybe that's why the cake mattered so much. Not because of the words written on it, but because after 19 years, that was still all Brianna understood about motherhood. A titel, a performance, a public moment. Meanwhile, motherhood had actually happened somewhere else, in grocery store aisles at 9 at night, in emergency rooms, in packed lunches, in folded laundry, in homework at the kitchen table, in staying. That's the thing about real love. Most of it looks unbelievably ordinary while it's happening. Until one day somebody stands at a podium and says it out loud, and suddenly everyone realizes they were watching a miracle the entire time. A lot of people in the comments have asked the same question: did Lena forgive them? Honestly, I think forgiveness is too simple a word for something like this. What happened wasn't one betrayal. It was 19 years of being quietly erased in favor of the easier story. And the hardest part? Donna and Brianna weren't villains every second of every day. That's what makes stories like this uncomfortable. People want monsters. But real damage is usually done by ordinary people protecting their own comfort. A mother choosing appearances over truth. A sister wanting credit without responsibility. A father staying silent long enough for silence to become agreement. That's how families break. Quietly. And that's why Noah mattered so much. Because he was the first person in that family who looked directly at Lena's sacrifices and called them what they actually were. Love. Not babysitting. Not obligation. Not temporary help. Love. So I want to ask you something. Do you think being a parent is biology? Or consistency? And if someone raised you for 19 years while another person only showed up for the photographs, who would you call mom? I really want to hear your thoughts on this one. Some of the most powerful conversations happen in these comments, not because everyone agrees, but because so many people watching these stories have lived pieces of them. And if the story stayed with you after the screen went dark, if it reminded you of someone who chose you when they didn't have to, subscribe and stay with us. There are more stories coming, some painful, some healing, and some that might hit a little too close to home.